Hello, and welcome back to the Up and Coming Artist Podcast. I'm Christian, I'm a photographer.
And I'm Ben, an animator. And if you haven't listened to this podcast before, we are all about exploring the visual, literary, and performing arts.
Got it.
And today is an extra special episode, Christian.
Why? Why is it so special?
Well, like I was saying, there are just so many areas of art. And the artist that we have on today is a VFX artist, compositor, animator, wedding photographer, which I didn't know about till like yesterday, color enthusiast, and stereoscopic 3D converter.
That is a lot of things.
And she is Kaya Herman. Welcome, Kaya.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. I didn't know I was so many things until right now.
It's a good thing we told you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We're all learning something today. And one more thing, Christian. Soon to be the host of her own podcast.
Ooh, podcast friends.
So much pressure. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Can you talk about that podcast for a second and what it's about? Because when you pitched it to me, that's when I was like, I need to make mine because that sounds so great.
So the idea was, it's called, well, let's just start with the title. It's called Going Upstream. And it was to review streaming content from like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, which is really coming up, and then like other platforms, HBO, yada yada. It used to be just their original content, but then Napoleon, who's supposed to be like my co-host, who's never gonna like show up, was like, no, let's do Boss Baby, let's do like all this like other stuff that's like not original content. I was like, fine, that's fine. And it started because we were drinking one night at like a brewery, and then I was like going off about Altered Carbon, and all I wanted to do was like complain about Altered Carbon. I did not enjoy that show at all, but I watched it all the way through. And for anyone who knows me, they know like I'll finish everything I watch because I want to give like the best critique I can. Mm-hmm. And that show, I was just like going crazy. And so we were like having a few beers, and then the podcast idea kind of like came up because we have a really good tete-a-tete, you know? Mm-hmm. And we decided like, oh, okay, we'll do like 6 episodes in a day, you know, so like you can just release them in a timely manner. But we'll have a beer and review the beer like for like 2 minutes or something. But by the 6th episode, it's like, okay.
You've had so many, yeah.
And Napoleon, after one beer, is already like all over the place.
Yeah.
Like 2 times like his rate.
Which is why podcast episode 7 is such a great episode. My self-plug.
Right? Was it all he's cracked up to be and more? He's so great.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. Hopefully it happens. I want to... Now I already forgot Altered Carbon because it's been so long. I like don't know what happens.
You have to rewatch the whole thing.
That face.
No,
that face.
The sad part is I probably will, just because I'm so dedicated. But Napoleon's like, I've made a really easy list of things for him to watch. That things he's already seen or he's just watched with me.
Like Frasier.
Oh yeah. We wanted to do Frasier episodes. There's 2 podcasts that actually talk about Frasier. One's with Kevin Smith.
Shut up. Oh, nice.
Which is super funny. It's talk salad and scrambled eggs. But he always like gets really high, and then they go on tangents about like, you know, the DC or Marvel universe. But it's so funny. And then there's like another one that I don't listen to, but it's like, oh, okay, we can do that. And I got Napoleon to watch all of Frasier, and then he watched all of Cheers.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my biggest accomplishments, I feel. Like, because there's so many. That's 11 seasons and like 25 episodes a season, and Cheers is the same.
So not any of the stuff you've done, not any of your artwork that you got Napoleon to watch all of Frasier and Cheers.
Well, that's a big deal. What person... Like, our generation doesn't watch any of that stuff anymore. And it's such a good standard for sitcom. Like, Frasier was, like, the biggest spin-off success. I'm going to just talk about Frasier this whole podcast.
Let's do it. Very passionate.
And every time there's another sitcom that references Frasier, I, like, lose my mind, and I record it and send it to Napoleon.
Well, all that to say... Your podcast is going to be amazing, and like if Napoleon's listening to this, which I hope he does, because he was our first subscriber.
Oh, he will. And if he doesn't, I'll have him sit down and listen to it.
Yeah,
You're really good at getting him to listen to stuff.
It'll be your second great accomplishment.
Oh my gosh.
But, well, I wanted to take it back really quick, which you probably don't even remember this, but recently we connected by both knowing Napoleon. But before this, the first time I had like kind of met you was in Joe Forkin's life drawing class. This was like my very first semester as a transfer student, and so my life drawing was horrible because, sorry, I'm going off on myself here. I was taking the prerequisite and that class at the exact same time in the same semester, so my life drawing was like terrible, and everyone else's in that class was so good. Anyway, it was you and Mark and other people.
Mine is awful.
No, it was good.
Oh no! No, I'm not good at drawing people. I can't figure it out. I don't know where their joints are. Everyone who knows me, I'm like, no, you can draw for me.
Well, but anyway, so I remembered you from back then. So anyway, that was like my little story.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your accomplishments, but before we do that...
Let's talk about me. Let's talk about you. How are you
No,
doing today? I'm sorry.
I'm doing pretty well. Yes, I am also here.
Yeah. So I wanted to take it back to what got you into art originally, and was it film?
So, let's see. Right at the end of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all, and I wasn't drawing then. I was always interested in art. And I grew up watching like Star Wars and like Harry Potter, and that was like a big deal. And so like I knew I was gonna go to community college because like school was so expensive. But I was gonna do pharmacy because my like step cousins were like pharmacists, and I was like, oh, I guess I should just like do something like straightforward and go to school. And then I was like watching The Lion King of all my, and I was like, oh no, I was researching all the schools. I was like, no, I don't want to do this at all. I'd rather just like work in film. I like this movie. So I sat down and I like started teaching myself to draw. I drew like Family Guy characters.
Oh, nice.
I drew Disney characters, and then I took like beginning drawing in Coastline College. And then I was like, okay, I drew Gollum once and it turned out really good. And I was like, all right, I'm not that terrible. I can keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then it wasn't until like Andy's class probably that I was like, oh, I want to do visual effects. I want to do like compositing. Because there's so much in that world of filmmaking. Like it's really hard to pin down like what you're going to do. So I felt like at Cal State it took a while to like hone in on like a very specific area of the industry. But I knew pretty quickly when I was like 17, I want to work in film. I don't want to like go to school just to like earn money. And it was hard too because like when you like say that to people that like aren't artists, they're like, well, you're not gonna make any money. And I was like, well, that's not why I chose to do it.
Yeah.
Like, and that like stuck with me. I had like coworkers like, well, it's like really hard, you know, like you're not gonna make any money. It's like, I feel like I'm just going to be in debt anyway. Like, that's just the nature. That's just the nature, so I might as well just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then I think it was, like, my mom's passion for film in general just was the driver. We would watch films all the time growing up. She, like, never really had, like, a filter on what that's how I watched Frasier. My mom was a psychologist, too. And I swear she bought the same artwork that he would have in his apartment. And I didn't realize it till I got older, and I was like watching the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, see, bringing it back to Frasier. But we watched, like, she pulled me out of school to see Phantom Menace. Like, premiere. I got like a lightsaber, and that was probably like one of my favorite memories growing up.
Your third greatest accomplishment.
So like I've always like watched premieres and like gone and seen movies, and I watched all of them with her. And then Harry Potter came out. I went to like this first grader, whatever age I was, and I was like, oh, it's a Harry Potter birthday party. What is this? I love it. And then I read the books, and then I was super obsessed. So, like, Star Wars was my mom's, like, universe, and then Harry Potter quickly became my universe.
Nice.
And then she tried to force me to read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and I was like, no. And then I grew up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, too. And then maybe junior year of Cal State, I was like looking into what's the thing animators hate? Gollum was like
motion capture.
Motion capture, thank you. I've gotten talked down about motion capture so often at Cal State Fullerton, and I was like, I love motion capture.
Yeah.
I love everything about it because it combines the artists with the actors, and the actors do have a performance. And Andy Serkis, I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cool. And like Age of Ultron, James Spader, I love. Boston Legal.
Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot of TV shows. You could see the actors' mannerisms in this like full robot creature, and that blew my mind. But Gollum was like really the beginning of that, and Andy Serkis made his own company, and I considered like applying there and like going to London. I love 3D animation, and the 2D world I do. It's just like live action just really hits home, where you like create these universes that you never thought you could think of, like Ready Player One, Star Wars, big hitter, right? And like you were with these live action actors, and it was like the most intense thing. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, those all kind of have that in common, right? Bringing real people into these worlds that you just can't have in our planet, you know?
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
Is that what really drew you to movies, like plus the influence of your mom?
Yeah, definitely. That's such a huge driver. And just like telling those stories and how creative people can be in like every aspect. It was insane. Like we don't always get to like see what we imagine come to fruition. So I was just like blown away by all those.
Yeah, that's cool. So then just getting into visual effects a little bit and what that even is for people who are listening, could you like just talk about things that you like about visual effects? I know you just talked about motion capture, but other things about it.
It's such a combination of things, and like I had my first week at Legend, and then I just like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew more. I thought I knew more, and I know nothing. And that's kind of like what it is. But visual effects, like what we were talking about, the Napoleon disappearing in like Thanos' death or fire or whatever you call it, because I can't do particle simulation. So I guess you could say nowadays there's like visual effects in like everything you see, whether it be like just like wire removal, that's like in every film, and changing like signs. I'm doing like visual cues for a podcast, I don't know why, but
we're benefiting from it. Yeah.
Compositing was something I really wanted to get into, and I'm still working on that because I go to Noman now for a compositing class. Oh my gosh, there's so much to it. Let's break it down. Conforming images on top of other images, right? Green screen is probably the most popular thing that people can understand. It's like placing an actor in front of a green screen and then take the green screen out and put another image behind the actor, right? Set extension is a big deal. So like if you're in Game of Thrones and all those giant like 500-foot statues, that doesn't exist, and they didn't travel there.
You broke my heart.
When I saw, like, you see the breakdowns, I love that HBO does visual effects breakdowns at the end of every episode. That's like something I really appreciate because you do not see that. So it's like all this like world creating, and like the compositing is like one of the last parts of it, I guess you could say. And taking all these different plates, whether it's a 3D object and placing it in that 2D plate, or particle simulation, like how, spoiler alert, Thanos kills 50% of like the whole world. And you watch like
it's okay, I thankfully just saw it. So. Just saw it, yeah.
It's been so long.
Almost as long as since we last saw it.
Oh my gosh. When those particles, like you see everyone just become like, what, dust would you call it?
Confetti.
It's
a birthday party.
Yeah, so that's a visual effect. Obviously, I hope everyone knows that they can't do that.
What?
A big one, like Jurassic Park was such a big deal when it came out because they used image-based lighting, and for people that don't know what that means, it's like capturing the lighting from the actual scene, the setting in live action, right? So like the rainy forest, whatever, what you would call it, and then capturing that light and putting that light in the 3D space, so every time a dinosaur is there, the sun is in the same position, that it was when they shot the scene. And so that was such a big deal because like, oh, these dinosaurs look like they're there. I mean, you watch it now and it's like, oh, ugh. Like, all the dark scenes you can't tell.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really great film to reference as far as visual effects, and I definitely fell in love with that one too. But I'm like a diehard Jeff Goldblum fan. He liked one of my Instagram posts once, and I like lost my mind. That was actually last Christmas. It was great.
The greatest Christmas present anyone could receive, I think.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal.
The fourth greatest accomplishment.
Oh man, my accomplishments keep going up.
Yeah.
There's too many to count.
Well, since we're still talking about it, another thing that you do, and I noticed it on your reel, is 3D tracking. Could you talk about what that is for people who are trying to understand, like you're talking about that statue being there and whatnot?
Yeah, so I guess the reason you would 3D track is so you could better place a non-real object in a space and have it like fit, because there's like so many directions you could go in a scene as far as like distance from the camera, which is a very big deal, and it's a very big deal in stereo, and we'll get to that. That was such a crazy thing. Nuke is a big one in the industry, so for anyone who feels like, I don't know what to learn next, Nuke is like such a big program to learn. The computer will look at the image, like especially if there's a camera move, it will track all the points it can visually see, and of course you can edit as you go, and then it will create like a 3D space of like points of reference, and then you take those points of reference, you decide, okay, this is the ground plane, all right, and then it knows like where the ground plane is, and then you dictate that. So I need to place the 3D object here, and it's so you can just virtually see a 2D space and then have it come to 3D world place, I think.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to hear and learn about, and that's cool to hear that you're still taking time to learn at Nomen. So before, and I want to hear about that, but before I get into that, you knew you wanted to do VFX and all the things we were just talking about. But you kind of had to go through and take all the art and animation, character animation classes like with me. Do you feel like that helped, or did it hinder you from what you wanted to do?
The 3D classes were seen as electives, so they got cut first.
Yeah.
And so you have people like Andy, who's like a wonderful person, but he's teaching like 6 different classes in one. And so it's very high concept. 3D is very, very deep. So that was really frustrating because I'm spending money on like 2D animation, and then I have to do a film in animation, and then I did a stop motion film. You didn't know that? Oh no!
Your 5th greatest accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's so bad. We'll I did a stop motion film because I did not want to draw. I was like, no. Well, I'll definitely show you. It's not very good, but I got a lot of laughs. There's like a professor that looks like and sounds like Paul Rudd, and I just met him, and he watched my film, and he laughed, and I was like, yes!
These accomplishments just keep going. I'm just so impressed.
We need to talk about Imposter Syndrome towards the end, as far as like how it is being in the industry, but we'll get there. So yes, those classes, it's very unfortunate because they would get cut so easily. 3D sculpting got cut for like a semester, and that was awful because that's very important, so foundational. I loved the stop motion film, but that was so stressful because no one was really teaching stop motion till Mike Dietz showed up, and Mike Dietz is the man. And I love that guy
shout out.
so
Shout
much.
out. I think he's mentioned in every podcast where we talk to anyone in animation, like even if they didn't go to Cal State Fullerton.
And he should be. He's wonderful. So Dietz came along and like, oh, we do stop motion. Oh, perfect. And I was the only one who did it. So it was even harder. But then people didn't know what to say. Every critique, like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
It's just that good. It's just blowing everyone's minds.
So I had to
Paul
build
Rudd.
5 different puppets for 2 cats. So it's about my 2 cats. And I moved the middle of the semester. The set broke like hundreds of times. I didn't know to shoot a clean plate first. so many rookie mistakes, but it's totally fine now. Like, I accept it. And I, like, cut out so many shots. I was like, I'm not doing this. I can't do it. And then I tried to do, like, a silicone mold. I'm so mad you guys got you guys took that puppet making class.
Yeah. We didn't do molds, though. That's amazing.
But still, what I would have given just to take that class way before. Like, everything got better when I was gone. That's why I talked to the art chair, and she's like, I'm so sorry, like, you know, I know you're graduating, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I am, but you guys need to, like, fix this because it's not right that 3D is getting so tramped on, and the world is so 3D now. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, I love storyboard artists, I love 2D artists, obviously, I'm friends with all of them, but it's like, oh, these 3D kids are slamming so much into their brain, and they, like, and then they have to go to Gnomon anyway, and Gnomon's so expensive. So, yeah, I go back to the class. There's classes I loved, that were very foundational as far as, like, viewing art in general. Like, it really trains your eye. But towards the end, I shouldn't be taking an intro class of, like, wildlife. But I love Barbara. I'm going to shout out Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara!
She's so smart. She's so supportive. But as my last class, it shouldn't be a foundational class. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was more of a 3D track. And, like,
agreed.
Your film had to be this. And you, like, were working so hard on your film, you know?
Right.
So now I'm spending, like, $2,000 on one class.
And I do want to transition into that, but before I do, I want to say, so really we have you to thank, because when I was there in the last, like, year after you graduated, things did get better, and things are changing now. I went back there, and they're separating out those classes like you were talking about. So it's not 6 classes in one. They're starting to branch out.
I would say that has a lot to do with Carol Ashley and Andy for sure. And Carol, I was very lucky. I took lighting and compositing a 3rd time. And Carol, she was like a VFX soup on The Matrix back in the day, and one of the first women in VFX, which was like really special to me because there's not a lot. Like right now, the team I'm on, I'm the only female. So she was really great, and I connected with her a lot, and she's the person that pushed me to talk to the art chair. The art chair is also very sweet. Oh, funny story. So I had talked to her maybe a week before graduation ceremony, and she made sure to learn my name. My name's like not a standard one. So she's the one reading the names during the ceremony. She says my name wrong.
Oh.
And I was like, what? I was like, man, I'm going to remember that forever, which I do.
Your 6th grade accomplishment.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
Well, then I would like to jump in here for a second. You talked about there's not a lot of women in your field, and I think that's not a secret by any means.
Yeah.
Do you feel a sort of weight on you or a pressure to accomplish as a woman in that field in order to give kind of an example for people coming into school who are maybe interested in the same topic?
I would say it's a huge motivator, for sure. And, like, the accomplishments feel so much more. It's, like, very gratifying. I follow, like, women in VFX on, like, the social platforms, and then, like, women in animation. And their stories are always so good. So it's, like, a lot of the stories are, oh, you'd be a great supervisor. Or, like, you're really articulate. Or, like, oh, you'd handle, like, production really well. Versus, like, you'd be really creative. It's, like, it's such an interesting thing, and I've experienced it so often. And I've gotten the conversation, like, obviously with 2D artists, or artists in general, very introverted, and they're not very conversational the best of times. So, like, with me, I was always more outgoing when I needed to be. And, like, Andy would always, like, force me to be, like, leader in group projects or something. Because I was the only one, like, making eye contact and talking. But it's like, I appreciate all those comments, and then it takes away, like, from, it's like, well, then does that mean I wouldn't be good in the, like, creative area as an artist? So I feel like that's something women get all the time. And then if you look at women in VFX, all their stories are like that. And, you know, don't get me wrong, like, if I was a VFX supervisor somewhere down the line, that'd be insane. I'd be so happy about it. But I want to do the artist part first, and you have to do that. But I don't want to, like, just work in production and keep track of everyone's schedule. You know?
Yeah.
It's like
you want to be in the trenches doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think now it's like more women in our generation and coming up, they're like, no, we're going to do exactly what we want to do. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just you kind of just like deal with all the, you know, the politics of it all. Like the last job I was at, there was like some misogynistic things happening.
Yikes.
To where like someone told me at like a lunch, was like, it's not a job where you can just go home and see your boyfriend. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And we sat with Victor and I and only spoke to me in that regard and like not like Victor. So that was like really frustrating. I was like, all right, you know, take that stuff with a grain of salt because you're gonna hear that like all the time. But that was an interesting. I was like, okay, no, and I'm single anyway, so it. But it's just like stuff like that can bog you down. But I don't think most women I've met or I'm friends with, no one lets that like get to them now.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And do you feel like there were people before you that helped pave that way for you, or do you still feel like you are part of that kind of first wave that's paving the way for people coming after you to be able to say like, hey, I don't have to listen to this because this person didn't listen to it and they accomplished much?
No, I think like people like Carol Ashley, she's made it so many accomplishments thus far, and I love talking to her. So I feel like we're still trying to make a huge push, but it's gotten so much better. I would say it'd be a lot harder like 15 years ago to try and do all that stuff, especially when it was new, like when Jurassic Park came around. Well, now I'm still like watching when I see the HBO like first look for VFX, all male team. I never see like a female on those, which I find really interesting. So I'm like, one of my goals backtrack. I was like, oh, if I can just be on a Game of Thrones, like work on that. But now the show's over. But no, there's definitely a lot of women out there that keep pushing. ILM, so many female visual effects people, and that's phenomenal. I love ILM. They do great work. So obviously they're responsible for so many things. But I think there's still like a good push. Just wait for all the old people to die.
Well, I did want to transition into Nomen if you wanted to talk about it, and I guess the way that I'll get there is, do you see that changing at Nomen? Like, are you the only woman there? You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
no. Nomen's lots of females there. It's great. Like, so many people come there, and it's like, you know they're passionate because they wouldn't go to Nomen if they weren't passionate about it. You know, they wouldn't spend that kind of money to go there. Like, so it's very different. It's very, like you feel like, oh, okay, this is the now. Like, this is something to look forward to. And I love seeing all the women there working so hard. And there's like no conversations like the one I mentioned. I've never gotten talked to like that.
Awesome.
Again.
Yeah, good.
So, and then at Legend Now, such a great team. Everyone's phenomenal, and I love being there. But I'm sure we'll get to that. But Nomen, yeah, totally different vibes all around. And it wasn't like that at Cal State Fullerton at all. I didn't know. We had so many strong female students there, and I think Carol Ashley just kind of like pushed it even further. So
yeah, no, I'd say so too. I think in 2D there's like definite advocates, you know, women in the industry. I think you're right though. And you're hitting on something that I think is really good for everyone on the podcast to listen to. In 3D, you guys are still paving that way.
Yeah, because it's like seen as like, you know, more technical, and there's not a lot of women learning to code. Oh, that's another thing, and it's like women in coding. Those programs are coming up where it's like, oh no, we're just going to pull in women for this program and teach them how to code, like boot camp style. And then now there's more software engineers that are women, and that's such a huge deal. And like coding's really big in 3D. If anyone doesn't know, Python is a huge deal, and I was like learning Python, which was insane, but it's like once you get it, it's like, oh, okay, it's fine.
That's awesome. Did you learn that in school, or did you research it on your own?
Oh, I did that by myself.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
You were like watching The Lion King, and you're like, I'm going to learn Python.
Oh,
That's good.
absolutely not.
So I have two questions. Then one, as a noob, I don't know what No Man is. Can you explain that to me?
Oh, so it's a 3D visual effects and animation, like private school, I guess you could say, trade school, but they just got credited for a full like degree, and I think master's as well, bachelor's and graduate studies. So it's just very specific
Got it.
to the industry.
Got it.
And it's in the center of Hollywood. So you're like, I would say a lot of people go there because they make so many connections. There's a lot of big names that come from that school. It's like Cal Arts
For
was.
3D, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like Martin Hall is my professor now, and he's been in visual effects for so many years, and he's so nice. My class is only 10 weeks. So it's like a lot of information, and it's very rapid fire. So you just have to like sit there, listen, take it in as much as you can, and move as fast as you can.
Yeah.
So it's very like deep stuff, but it's so educational.
Yeah. So where it is in the heart of Hollywood, you said there's a big female presence there. It's a bunch of young people. Do you feel kind of like that young rebel vibe of everyone's passionate and they're all trying to push themselves up? Is it kind of like a fun environment to be in?
It's just, it's a really cool environment, but everyone's so busy. There's no one not busy, and it's like every computer says rendering, please don't like log out. Like that's the most you'll interact with other humans for the.
You'll read their post-it note that says "Don't touch."
Yeah, please don't touch. If you need to log off, save it to desktop. And it's like, that's what I see. So the class I'm in is only like 5 people.
Yeah.
And what class is that? What are you learning?
It's called Art of Compositing. So it's actually like an intro to Nuke. It's a very good class. I've been learning Nuke on my own thus far for 3 years or so. And then this one's just like even more information. Like I said, anyone who's interested in compositing or even 3D in general or like just 2D plates, just learn Nuke because that's what everyone's using.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested in going to No Man, they need to know what to expect, which is it's a lot of hard work.
It is
It's
hard work,
don't
yes.
expect it to be a necessarily fun time, but you will get a lot out of it.
Yes, and I will say, once you get in the industry, you don't necessarily need to take classes because you will learn on the job. Once you break it in, which takes a while, then you don't have to worry so much. Noman was a big seller as far as like when I was looking for work. They're like, oh, well, she went and is very passionate and she went to Noman, and then that tells me she knows Nuke, blah, blah, blah. And that's a large part of why I got the Legend gig. So it's like, yeah, take a class you're passionate about. I wouldn't say you have to like keep taking classes because you're just going to burn a hole in your wallet and you never know like what job you'll have next. And it's really scary, as you know, like you get contracts and then the contract's over. And it's like, oh, I got to jump to the next thing. It's not like you work at Apple for X amount of time because it's so hard to get fired.
Well, that's good. And we've been alluding to it the whole time, so now I think it's time to get into it. Let's talk about your job at Legend. And first off, what got you that job?
So Victor got me the PA job at Aquaman in Hollywood as well. And then I was a PA and I was only there 3 months before I got to Legend. But the reason I got to Legend was at Aquaman, we shared a kitchen with another company, and then they were doing stereo work next door, and then I was just like, I made friends with the ladies there, and I kind of had lunch with them more than Aquaman. No, they're great. I think some people you connect with more, and it definitely, everyone's like, oh, you should network, and that's such a big deal, and like, for me, I was like, at what point is it disingenuous? And that worries me. And what I noticed at the PA job, I was like, wow, people really just like try to get to know everyone, but like don't really get to know everyone. So I feel like what I'm trying to say is like, don't worry so much about networking. Like be yourself, but like talk to people. Like be outgoing if you can be. I had an interesting time. There was like a lunch where I was eating with one of the ladies, and then the Aquaman guys are like commenting. They're like, wow, like Kaya really like, you know, says hi to people and like gets to know people. And then I was like, yeah.
I actually care. Yeah.
They're like, and then I sat with them and they're like, oh, do you do that just to like network? I was like, no. No, I didn't think about it like that. I see them every day. And then there were a couple 2D artists that were like, oh, I don't interact with people if I don't have to. I was like, well, okay. I mean, it doesn't hurt to say hi to people. They're like, oh, well, you're so outgoing. That's really great. And I was like, I never thought of myself as someone who would just say hi to people. But I was just like, well, I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do. And then I had a lot of good conversations with the art director at Aquaman about, like, yeah, if you're a PA, you say hi to everyone. You're nice to everyone. And then, like, that's how you make friends. But I felt like people respected you more if you were just, like, open and being yourself rather than, like, hi, how are you? And then just, like, making this whole branding yourself too much, I think, will hurt you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
It's just, like, you don't have to...
Jinx.
We are the same person.
I feel like you don't... Like, I got to know those ladies, right? And then I met the senior colorist. And he is now at Legend. And he does Nuke. And then I connected with him. And then he worked on all the Lord of the Rings. He worked with Peter Jackson. And he did, like, a bunch of color work. And then I met them through my friends that I met next door. And I just connected with them. And it was super simple. Like, I was like, oh, hey, Emily, you want to get lunch? Yeah, let's do it. And then I met him, and then coincidentally, Emily and the colorist both left that company and went to Legend, right? And so I was like really bummed out because they both left me. And
who do I lunch with now? Yeah.
I mean, I love the Aquaman team; they're great. You know, it's just you connect with who you connect with, right? And it's like, and that's totally fine. And then I got an email like, hey, send me your resume right now from Emily. It's like, this assistant editor job, it's going to be so great. It's like better than a PA. And then the senior colorist reached out to me. He's like, hey, Kaya, like, I heard you might be interested in this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, absolutely, I'm interested in this. Here's my resume. He didn't need to look at my website. He didn't need to look at my reel. Because he was like, I want someone green to the industry that I can train up. Which was great. Because what company is like, oh yeah, we'll take you with no experience?
Yeah.
Never. It never happens. It's very unfortunate. It was just because I said hi in the kitchen and I was like, you ladies want to go get food? Yeah, it's fine. It wasn't me planning, like, oh, they do stereo, they do 3D. I wasn't like in my head like, oh man, I gotta like really get to know them.
My master plan.
I want the job. No, it was just being friendly. And then they reached out because they knew how new I was. And then they knew that Aquaman was all, like, previs work, which wasn't my wheelhouse. But it was definitely a good in. But I did not enjoy being a PA. Don't be afraid to say that you don't like something. Yeah. Everyone tries so hard to, like, oh, I'm going to, like, get this PA job. And then I'm going to love it because I have to. Because I got in finally. And, like, you don't have to, like, you're not going to like every job you get, that's for sure. But, I mean, honestly, it's, like, okay to express real emotion, too. I feel like a lot of my friends now are, like, people worry so much that they have to, like, keep connecting, which is more stressful than just, like, connect with the people you will connect with naturally. Like, the art director at Aquaman, great guy, Jay Kim, he's, if you look him up, he's done amazing work. He's been an art director for a long time. I connected with him about networking, and I told him, I was like, what point is it, like, disingenuous, and does that bother you at all? He's like, honestly, it's like the higher up you go, the more disingenuous you become, because you have to, like, schmooze and, like, for the client, and blah, 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 and I was like, oh, that's stressful, but as an artist, you don't necessarily have to do that. You make friends with a bunch of people, and once you make those friends, they'll be with you for the rest of your career because they're all doing the same thing. They're all trying to get there. So it's like, try not to stress about your brand so much, but yeah, don't be a jerk, you know? It's like, no one likes working with jerky people. Yeah. It's like, I didn't have a lot of experience, but I was friendly and I had a good time with those people, and that's why they asked me to come on. And that was it. There was no master plan that I was like trying to have. Yeah, and I'm very appreciative. Like, Victor was my friend. It kind of is who you know, and that's rough. But like it's like once you get there, you're there. You know, it's like don't worry about it.
And I would in a second ask about Legend, but just as a quick comment about that. But like Victor, you knew from that class. You know what I mean? It wasn't like an unnatural like I had to drive 30 miles to this event that I didn't even want to go to so that I could talk to this one person who I thought had connections in the industry. It's like, no, you were just in a history class or something with Victor, and later on...
We'll say I go to no events. Yeah. So sorry to everyone listening who works really hard and goes to those events. I don't go anywhere.
Because that's not the secret. It's just who you are and just being yourself.
I feel like in a sense, like, it is mean to only be friendly to someone because you're trying to get something out of them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was like trying. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. It's like don't be nice to someone just to earn something. Be nice to people because you like people.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's harder for some people to like connect. I've seen it, like we've talked about this, introverted artists all the time. I'm myself introverted most of the time and outgoing when I feel like it. But also, like, don't worry so much. Someone's gonna reach out to you. Hey, how are you doing? You want to go grab food with us today? Like, just leave it at that. That's all you need to do. Eat. Everyone loves eating.
I have no cheesy transition between eating and what Legend 3D is, so I'll just ask.
It's about eating and watching 3D.
There you go. There it is.
They're both delicious.
I hope no one from Legend hears this.
So for people who are listening now, can you talk about what Legend is and the kind of projects that they do?
Yes. Legend is a 3D VFX VR company, or house, I should say. So right now we do a lot of stereo work, and for people who don't know what stereo is, and I barely figured that out, it's like all those movies that say you want to watch this in 3D, that's how that's made. 3D is right eye and left eye combined, so you can watch a 3D film. So it's working in depth, which, oh my gosh, I didn't know how much work went into it. And it's like, do you guys watch films in 3D?
Yes, we have a 3D TV.
Wow. I did not expect that. Because I was like, I don't watch anything in 3D.
Oh, okay.
So now all I'm doing is staring at the screen and watching 3D all the time. But yeah, so we did like 3D conversion, stereo work there. So all those big movies that are in 3D, there's a chance we worked on some of them. It's bittersweet in the industry because you get to work on these big films, right?
Yeah.
But you ruin the film for yourself.
Oh, because you watch it 1,000 times.
Yeah, and then it's like all of the plot you were waiting for. Oh, well, I watched it with a green screen in the back. So it's like, I get to know the story really early, but then it's like, oh man, okay, it's going to be different when I watch it later.
Bummer.
You just can't work on any of those Harry Potter movies or the follow-ups, or else your life will be destroyed.
So my goal next is to have my name credited on one Harry Potter universe film. That is
Achievement 7.
Yes. So that is a big deal for me. I was like, oh man, because it's like there's like a universe everyone has a passion for, right? So it's like if you get to work in that universe, what a big deal. It doesn't even matter what you did. No, at least not to me. Like, I don't need to be like a supervisor. It's like, so my title at Legend is Apprentice Assistant Editor, and I was like, that's interesting. I don't know why I needed the apprentice part, but that's cool. So I will not be credited on those films, which is totally fine. But I'm hoping maybe I can get senior editor and then get the little slot and wait 9 minutes later.
Nice.
To see the name.
So, real quick, just for funsies, you said your universe would be Harry Potter.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben? What would your universe be?
Oh gosh, don't ask me that. I don't know now. It'd probably be a world in which all the like Max Fleischer cartoons exist. Maybe it'd be like oh gosh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something, where all the 2D animation like lives, something like that. What about you?
Probably the Alien franchise. I love those movies. Shut
You know, we'll keep going.
Yeah, that will go on forever.
Do you want to be like a DP? Because I know you're in photography.
I mean, I've thought about it for sure. At this point, you know, it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, I'm happy just to take pictures. That's a good time. If I could work in magazines or social media, that'd be great. But man, if I could get my name in the credits of an Alien movie, oh, that'd be a fantastic.
See, that's so cool. Like, my professor Martin Hall, like, his goal was Lord of the Rings, and then he got it.
Nice.
On like the Twin Towers, and I was like, man, see,
That's
that
awesome.
just feels so cool. You're a part of this, like, this storyline that you just grew up with and loved.
Yeah.
And you know they keep remaking everything. So it's like, yes!
I'll
have
be
a
there.
chance.
You'll be there eventually, yeah.
Like when they remake the first Harry Potter, which I honestly hope they don't do, but it's like, oh, they'll probably do it. Maybe I can do that one. We actually did end credits sequence for The Last Fantastic Beasts.
Oh,
And
nice.
it came in right after that. It's so bummer.
Oh.
But I mean, I love the film, but I was like, there's still 4 more Fantastic Beasts.
You can do it.
Oh man.
We believe.
I gotta move up real fast.
Before we move on from 3D conversion, and I know this is so complicated, so we can cut this out. But I was looking at it and I'm like, are those 3D meshes that you guys are like making on the character? Does that make sense? So like,
Absolute good question. When I was like in the theater looking at all the 3D stereo work, I was like, okay, so let me just say, it's so deep high concept that it's like, well, there's a stereo VFX supervisor, right? And then you'll sit with him, and my job would be like operator and changing between like plates, like source plate, the depth plate, when depth is the stereo, is the 3D part, and then there's the comp, which is like later on, right? So in stereo, yes, there is like a mesh adjustment, like on each. They do like for the first pass, it's like a cutout of like of a person. So you kind of see that come out, and then they'll do like a mesh on top. I believe. Now I'm still learning because stereo is like really complicated.
yeah.
But like we'll get the 2D plate, we'll send it to the depth artist, and then they'll do a cutout of like the elements that need to be in depth. So they almost recreate him in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the supervisor will say, okay, go to 4 pixels back. 4 pixels back, no one can see that except for them. I like watch that. Alright, 5 pixels. Like that's, so in theater we review all these shots, and sorry, it's gonna get really confusing. I don't know if anyone can follow. But we'll be in the theater, we'll get the depth plates back from the artist and review that, and then the soup will be like checking everything between the background and foreground, the characters and the elements, and the 3D elements, right? Sometimes we don't always have the 3D pieces in there. And he'll be like, okay, 4 pixels hit, 5 pixels, okay, go back to 4, and you're just like, sorry? I'm like trying to see, there's an actor that we were looking at this week, for example, and then he's like a medium close-up shot. So you're looking dead at his face, and then his nose was like bulbous, almost. I didn't notice it, and they adjusted it by 1 pixel, like, oh, it's so much better. And I'm like, what? Everyone in the room was like, oh man, he looks so much better instead of like bad. Because you pay like so much money for this actor to be in the film, so they cannot look bad, right? Yeah. And that's so they're making these minute adjustments in stereo. So it's like how far this character is from the camera, right? And how far you're gonna pull them. And then there's action sequences where it's like, oh, this needs to make you jump, so we'll adjust the disparity by like 45 or 35 or whatever. And it's so much information. So none of this is gonna make sense to anyone listening. Sorry.
No, it's super interesting. I'm really into it. Like, oh, so cool.
Yeah, and so then you have to wear the 3D glasses in the theater the whole time. And sometimes these review sessions can be like 3 or 4 hours long. And there's been review sessions I've heard with Peter Jackson that are 60 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I've heard a story where like his wife tried to like get him to stop, and then she just fell asleep in the theater because it was no use.
Oh.
And then, so, like, my job in the future is to run those sessions and be the operator.
Okay.
And go, like, A, B, old, new, you know, and then adjust the disparity and adjust the depth, like, in real time. So, like, I guess with those 60-hour sessions, the operator normally, like, won't talk, you know, like, it's like, oh, there's, like, some big names in here, like, let's just get this through, and then they would sneak and switch for breaks. But it was, like, really hard to run in and out of the theater without anyone noticing that you guys are switching and working. So those stories, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I could stand in this dark room for that long. I doubt they'll ever happen, like, to me specifically, but, like, the, like, 2-hour and 3-hour, that's definitely real. So you're just, like, in this dark room staring at 3D for that long. So intense. And then when they adjust so much, it's like sometimes it just hurts. So, like, we were looking at our demo for Legend for 3D stuff. And they were, like, testing me, like, okay, what shots, like, are too intense, you know? And I got it right, because I was like, oh, I just picked the most painful cut. Because you went from, like, sorry, visual information, a shot where it's like, okay, this distance is pretty close, and it's a little more flat. You know?
The granola bar and the coffee cup.
Yes. So you're looking at it, and it's like, okay, that distance is reasonable for me to, like, to look with my eyes. And then you cut straight to another shot where, like, because it's left and right eye, the object so is like this, right, in 3D. And then, so if it's, like, a really far distance, it's really intense. So you went from, like, the coffee cup distance being really minute to, like, boom.
That boom represented the coffee cup moving very far away from the granola bar. Not only was Kaya's demonstration a metaphor for stereoscopic 3D, but it was also a metaphor for how well Christian and Ben understood what the heck she was talking about.
Your eyes have to adjust that quickly, and it was like, oh no, that hurt. So, like, our goal is to fix those jumps.
Yeah.
And so you look at the reel and think, our Legends website, they did Ant-Man and stuff like that. So all the Marvel stuff's, like, really intense to look at.
Yeah.
Because they prefer it that way. And then you look at some of the other work, it's like, oh, okay, there's, like, an ocean sequence. Oh, that's nice. It's nice, peaceful. You're not working so hard.
Yeah.
But, so that's kind of, like, what it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally.
It's been a lot of information to take in this week. So, and my eyes, like, hurt for 2 days, and then it was fine. And then I finally saw, like, a 4-pixel difference. But it's going to take a lot of practice.
Yeah. And it's awesome that you're just so open about that. I mean, for anybody who's listening to this, like, don't give up. You know, just keep trying. You'll get there.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's good to hear that. So, now that we've kind of heard that you went from being a pharmacist to working at Legend, is that a company you want to stay with for as long as you can, or do you have greater plans for something you'd like to do in the future?
Honestly, at this point, I'm so grateful to be at Legend that I'm like, oh, I want to stay here. I don't want to, like, my contract to be over and then that's it. That would be such a bummer.
Yeah.
But, no, they're a really great company, and everyone I've been working with, solid people. I mean, we'll see, because it's like I'm not doing the creative work now. I'm just QCing and running, like, dailies and stuff. So I am enjoying the part I play, but there's more parts I want to play, and that might not necessarily happen at Legend, because it's like, you know, for every project you don't need so many people on it, right? And, you know, they got to do what they have to do business-wise. So we'll see, but I'm making so many connections, but not purposefully. They're just there, and if they like me, they'll be like, hey, well, you know, I know people here, blah, blah, blah. Actually, when I was at the other job, the day I got the offer from Legend, my art director pulled me aside and was like, hey, are you looking for work? Because I know this, and this. And then I was like, oh, I just, like, got an offer, but thanks so much.
Yeah.
That means I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
And you're going to, like, offer or try to help me get something else, you know, more in the wheelhouse. So it's like one of those.
That's awesome. So what kinds of stuff would you want to move into, like, for your career?
In the future, we're not talking
yeah.
don't feel threatened to anybody.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So right now, the goal at Legend is I'm in editorial, right? So I would move up to like editor and senior editor, but we're also going to do color work. So my goal, because I work with the guy who hired me is a senior colorist, right? So my goal is to be a colorist at this point, to become more interested in color. It's not like particle simulation or anything like that, but at this point I don't feel like I need to do that type of work. I kind of keep changing because it's such niche areas in visual effects. So hopefully we're going to do color correction in the future, which is like a big deal for them because we haven't done that yet. So then hopefully I'll be a part of that if they keep me on, because that would be great. And then be a colorist, senior colorist, work with big directors and color their films. Wes Anderson style. I don't know. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I mean, exactly.
That's
It's like
awesome.
do what makes you happy, which we'll say over and over again.
Do what makes you happy.
And speaking of doing what makes you happy, as we transition into the future of your career, and we talked about where you want to be at Legend and stuff, but are there projects or stories that you want to make and tell?
Man. I was like worried you were gonna ask that. Because like Napoleon, good conversation about all his projects. He's so successful. No, I'm being a brat. Yes, I actually had a short story idea where it was a live action CG element story, where it was like this robot character, and it was this tiny little robot character, but his face was just a screen, right? And it was going to be just this short piece where it's like you see this robot walking around town and there's no one around, and then he keeps experiencing these seizures, like little glitches, and his screen would flash with like social media things, like Twitter angry tweets or whatever, or like the fake news articles, or like all this stuff that like our generation has to digest. Like what we see in media is so much, it's so aggressive, and you like never know like, oh well, what should I read about, like what's actually appropriate, what's real, what's not, and there's so much negativity, like politics obviously right now everyone's very tense.
Heated, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's like at this point it's like that kind of like can affect you in not okay way, and like all these stories about sexual harassment at Time's Up, Me Too, blah blah blah, like there's so much going on, and it's like, how do you deal with it? No one really talks about like how do you deal with like how we take in all this society nonsense. So he, like, the robot would essentially just, you'd witness all these like flashes of news and media on him, and then he would keep walking around and like it's like dead, like no one's around, right? Finally it will end, and then he like sits by himself like on the coast or whatever, on the beach. Someone sits right next to him, and then like this person like holds his hand or something. Camera turns and then reveals him to be a person and not a robot. So it was like remembering the human connection type deal, while integrating like my CG element to it. A silent film, But that was like the idea. I don't know if I have time to do that, because I will be even more busy now, but that was an idea, and I've always wanted to implement music and 3D animation too. But we'll see.
That'd be super fun.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So you would film it like around here in terms of like the live action stuff? Or? Okay, wow.
But I don't have that, like, my camera's like a Canon 60, which I can get the job done, but I just like have not put in the work for it. And it's like, who do I want to be in it for those 2 shots, and like how do you make the time? Because now it's like I actually have a Monday through Friday gig, which is great. But it's like I get home, I'm exhausted. It takes me like 2 hours to get home. And then the weekends are always filled with something else. That's another thing. I got really nervous that once I moved to Hollywood and got this job, that all the friends I made, like, I wouldn't be able to see them. Like, for you, like, we hung out once, and then we never saw each other again, which is such a normal thing. And it's like, you hear these stories, like, all these people I work with, a lot of them are divorced, a lot don't spend time with their families, and I was worried, like, oh, is this right for me? Because I don't want that life. And I was like, well, I don't feel like that has to happen that way, you know? I don't feel like you have to lose your personal life. And then you realize, like, the people with credibility were like, no, go take a break. No, go take your lunch. Go do this. No, you have a life too. It's like, appreciate that so much. The hard part is when you make those new connections. Like, well, it's like, I really want time for my old connections, my old friends that I can connect with. And I'm finding out that, oh, well, no, I still talk to them. Like, it's like when you get older, the expectations of friendship change, but it's okay. Like, oh, we can't hang out every week, but maybe we can grab dinner once a month or once every 2 months, and that's okay. But it's like, don't stress about losing those connections. Focus on that too. Focus on your career, but also focus on the other side of it, because it's very important. Because then you don't want to lose another part of yourself in that process to, like, be the best animator, be the best visual effects artist. You know, it's like, how did you get to that? Your other side brought you there too. Does that make sense? Super tangent. I don't even know what you asked.
That's fine.
No, that is what I wanted to get to. I think that ties into, because you've talked about research that you've done, you talked about network that you've done, you talked about even just now, like, remembering both sides of your life, the work side, but also the social side, knowing people. Is there any other advice that you would give to people in VFX and things that you do?
Obviously put in the work, but it's like, don't stress out about putting in the work. Like, everyone's like, well, you're not an expert till you spend thousands and thousands of hours in this craft. Sure, that's true, absolutely. But if you spend most of your time stressing that you're not putting in the time because you're tired, then take time for yourself. And then do it when you feel good about it. It's like when you hop in the shower and you have all these great ideas. That's really important time. Or when you're in the car for a really long time and you think about all these ideas, that's time you're putting in. Like, if you want to be a creative person, think creatively. And that's putting in work. A lot of people don't even have time to do that. So it's just like, try not to let yourself get so stressed out. Like, before I made that production assistant job, I was so depressed. Because it took a year after graduating, and, like, and you fall in that rut of comparing yourself to others, and we all do it. And, like, we have a bunch of friends who get really stressed out, and it's like, why is this person working at DreamWorks and I'm not? You know, it's like ugh. And you don't realize it till you get your foot in the door so that you can relax. But, like, all last year I was like, man, I suck. Like, should I keep doing this, or should I just, like, go learn something else, or should I stay at Apple forever? Which, I'm not bogging down Apple. Great job. I would totally stay there if I needed to. But it's like, we spend so much time stressing ourselves out when we really don't need to. So it's like, take time to, like, do yoga, or take time to hang out with your friends. And then, like what Napoleon and you guys talked about, like, that teamwork, working with your friends, and, like, even when they go off on tangents and just, like, do all these, like, crazy stories about boats and walls and roaches, I can't even keep up with, like, all that stuff. But it's like, those are really important times. Or, like, if you don't like the school you're going to, don't go. Like, you don't like it. If you don't like the people or the industry, like, don't do it. There's no point in, like, stressing your life about that stuff. Just, like, do whatever you want. Write down all your crazy thoughts. I don't know. Like, I'm trying. It took me a long time to, like, be okay with, like, where I was at. So for the longest time, I was like, oh, I'm already 25 and I'm not doing anything. And it's like, oh, I'm 25 and I'm entry-level job in the industry. And then I got to Legend and I was like, oh, I'm 25 and I'm working on these films. That's so cool. I never thought this would happen. You know, if someone talked to me when I was like 20 and said I'd be doing what I am today, I would have been like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
You know?
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's been such an adventure, but I think just keep connecting with people, and then just like, don't give up, and we'll say it over and over again. but it's true.
Yeah.
And if you feel down about something, or you feel like, talk to your friends. Like, Napoleon is a big friend that I've had in my life, very important friend, because he's always said, no, you're so much more than what you think you are. Like, you're working so hard, you may not be where you're at right now, but you'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh, and Imposter Syndrome, where, like, when I started at Legend, I was like, man, I don't know anything. The first 2 days, I was, like, stressed out. Man, I was like, oh, I suck. I'm so stupid. Which is so ridiculous to say, because it's such a specific thing. Like,
how could you have known that?
like everyone else in the world doesn't know what this is. Why do you feel like you have to know what this is? And I was texting another friend of mine who's like a software engineer, and he sent me the article about Imposter Syndrome. And I was like, I just laughed. I was like, I'm pretty sure you sent me this before. But I was like, oh, it's so good to read about this. Like, you just devalue your achievements. And then you guys kept pointing out my achievements, whether it's like getting your friends to watch all of Frasier. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think about that. And there's all these great achievements.
I love that ranks up there with working in the industry.
It does. Everyone watch Frasier. If there's like 3 people who comment, so I watch Frasier, that'd be so great.
So that's really your advice to people who want to get in, is just go watch Frasier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you make friends, right? You watch Kelsey Grammer. But yeah, so everyone look up Imposter Syndrome and then read it, and then don't stress out anymore.
Yeah. But that's true. I think that happens everywhere. And I think one thing that I'm not going to say necessarily helps with that, but at least encourages me to keep going, is when I see my friends doing amazing work. Mm. So where can people go to see your work?
What work? Just go to the movie theater, I guess.
Oh, whoa! Mic drop!
When they remake Frasier in 3D.
Oh my gosh, imagine editing depth on Kelsey Grammer's head. And staring at that for hours.
The gleam.
Would it ruin it? Well, you've already stared at his head for hours, so I guess it wouldn't really change anything if you were doing it in 3D.
You're a true fan.
Oh.
Well, I know it's old work, but you pointed me to your website, which is...
Oh, yes. KayaHerman.com. It's pretty straightforward. You can find it if you know to spell my name. Kaya. Kayak without the K at the end.
You can check out Legend's work at legend3d.com or something like that. I think it's very similar to that.
legend3d.com. They're doing amazing work. You will not see my name anytime soon up there. But if it comes up there, you best be believing I'm posting it everywhere.
And you'll be posting it where?
Oh, I guess the only social media I use is Instagram, which is Kaya Herman again, with an N at the end, because they wouldn't let me spell my name correctly. But
darn technology.
But yeah, so I guess the goal, once I get more comfortable in the work I'm doing, I'll have more time for personal work. So yes, I have like a highlight on Instagram where it's like VFX, and it's going to be VFX that I do, whether it's color grading or like particle simulation. That was fun, blowing up Napoleon. But so we'll see, like, if people want to look at that. Yeah, but it's like most of my time is going to be at Legend and working on all that stuff. So
very cool.
If anyone has questions, please reach out, because I love answering all the questions I can. Don't be scared to talk, even if I don't know you. Maybe be a little scared. I'm a little mean.
Well, I think we've proven by how many friends you've made, and working where you are in the industry right now, that's not true. The only other thing I was going to add to checking you out on the socials is your podcast. Just look for that in the future. I already forgot,
because it's never happened.
Well,
he's the only one that will remember it and keep it going. You might as well just
I'll be your first fan.
Every time you're on here, we're gonna be like, so how's the podcast?
Yeah. And then we'll watch Frasier.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Thanks for coming on, Kaya. We super appreciate it, and we're super excited to see what you did in the industry.
Thanks. I loved being here. You guys are great.
I was also here.